Soldiers are trained to follow orders no matter what. Even if an order goes against their moral code or the laws of physics, they're taught to not question it. Questioning an order is disobedience. Disobedience means insubordination can lead to a court-martial. That's why most armies have a saying, don't think, just do. But this unthinking obedience can be dangerous. It can lead to groupthink, which is what happens when the desire for harmony or the desire to be seen as a good and loyal soldier leads to bad decisions. We saw an example of this recently in 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. Russian soldiers were told that Ukrainians would welcome them as liberators. Russian soldiers believed it, and many of them went into battle singing the Russian national anthem. We now know how that turned out. Russian soldiers were not greeted as liberators. They were, in fact, fired upon. Why didn't this happen? Why didn't the soldiers question the orders? Because of groupthink. Groupthink happens when there's a strong pressure to conform. And in the case of the Russian army, there was a very strong pressure to conform. If you questioned an invasion, you could be labeled a traitor. You could be sent to a gulag. You could be put to death. So no one questions the order. No one thinks. They just do what they're told. And that's how we ended up with thousands of dead Russian soldiers and a humiliated army. And this is not just something that happens in armies. This is something that happens in all groups, in all organizations where there's a strong pressure to conform. It can happen in schools, in families, in workplaces, and even in friendships. Here's another example. In 2017, a woman called Jill Winebanks was driving home from a yoga class. She was in her 80s and she was driving slowly. Suddenly, a young man cut her off. He just, changed lanes and cut her off. Most people would have let it go. Not this woman. She decided to teach this young man a lesson. She pulled out her phone and called 911. She told the operator that she needed a police escort to get home because some maniac was trying to kill her. The operator asked if she was sure because, she sounded calm. To which Mrs. Banks said, I'm positive. And if you don't send a police escort, I'll call back and sue you. And this went on for almost an hour. She kept calling the police, kept asking for a police escort, until finally 2 police cars showed up. By this time, her blood pressure had gone up. She was hyperventilated. And when the officers entered her house, they found out that she was dead. Why did this happen? Why did you want the operator or the police officers tell her to calm down or just ignore the call? Because of group, each person was doing their duty. No one thought that an old lady who was asking for a police escort actually needed one. No one questioned the old woman or tried to talk her down. They just did what they were supposed to do. And that's how we ended up with 2 dead cops and a humiliated police force. So this is a problem. Groupthink can lead to bad decisions, even disastrous ones. So we need to be aware of it. We need to learn to question things. We need to learn to not just do what we're told to do, but to also think about what we're doing. Otherwise, we may end up like the Russian soldiers or the police officers, humiliated and embarrassed.